pronouns. All right, let's go.
There he is, Gary Faust.
Gary Faust.
We're here.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 127 of Convos on the Pedicab. I'm here with my friend, Zack Moore, 10th Planet Purple Belt and author of Mastering the Metal, a book about Eddie Bravo, and this guy named James Watson, who helped Eddie Bravo get to where he is today. Before we get started, we got to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Have you been leaving your house outside again? Texas weather can wreak havoc on your home, especially your roof. And if you haven't had it inspected lately, chances are that outside elements could be making their way inside. Trust Balcones Roofing and Remodeling to perform a thorough roof inspection and offer long-lasting solutions. They are the only 5-star rated roofer in Austin who specializes in installing the impact-resistant F-Wave Revia and back all roof replacements with a $20,000 guarantee. To schedule a roof inspection, call 512-937-8805 or visit balconesroofsaustin.com. 512 Boutique Events services all catering and staffing needs to any event in Austin and the surrounding areas. Anything from weddings to corporate events to festivals. They are even equipped to provide bar services. Visit their website today at www.512boutiqueevents.com for contact information. Calendar fills up quickly, so be sure to get your event booked today.
Are you leaving your house outside again?
Best ad ever. Best ad ever.
That's so silly.
I love that guy. That guy's awesome. Just totally like dude, that guy is great.
Are
like
you leaving your house outside?
Sponsoring this podcast, even though it's helping me a lot more than it's helping him because he loves what I'm doing that much.
That's good for him. That's good for you.
That guy is the man.
People are starting to know about him too.
A little, yes, Carl.
I mean, did you
Balcones Roofs, bro. Let's go.
Balcones Roof?
Shout out Balcones Roofs. I'm putting that on my Twitter page.
Put it on your Twitter
Carl Larson, that guy. That's a
Don't
real
leave
one.
your house
That's
outside.
a real one. We love Carl. We love you. We're dedicating this out. We're going to dedicate this episode to James from the book, but we're going to add a dedication to Carl.
Carl for making sure this happened.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
All right. Ready?
We're ready. Yes.
We're ready to jump in.
Let's jump in. No.
How'd you like it? First off, this guy just finished the book today.
I finished the book. It was really good. It was an inside story on how Eddie Bravo got to where he is.
Yep.
And the process of going from being nobody to being a household name.
Yeah.
It's an amazing process. One of the things that you really start to see is that a lot of people that become household names, when you really learn about their story, they are regular guys just like you and me.
And we know that too from meeting Eddie and knowing Eddie, right? And so the other thing as well with that is someone becoming a household name, and the story that comes with it is, I read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, and just I mentioned this a lot. It's like the third page of the book. I'm like, there's a lot of heroes out there that the culture puts on us, and to be able to explain the story of someone worthy of being a hero and who actually has a heroic hero's journey is a super valuable thing that I feel like you can get to do through a book or a podcast or anything like that. And so to put a spotlight on someone like that is a great thing to do.
No, and it's done in a really good light, because Eddie Bravo never really, from this book, right? It didn't seem like he really cared that much about being famous.
No.
Like he
he did on the come up when he was coming up.
Okay, in the beginning he kind of did, right?
Right, like everyone
did.
Yeah.
When he was in high school and he wanted to be a big time metalhead.
He wanted to either be a rock star or a football player.
Yeah.
So
but rock star was really what he tried to go for.
But he was once he figured out he couldn't play football.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Once he figured out the football wasn't going anywhere, and then just to see, he wanted to be seen. He was, he had a difficult childhood, wanted to be seen, and he's made himself seen.
No, 1,000%. But what was really cool is that during his journey, you understand why he didn't succeed as a musician. But
he tells you why.
Yeah, and you understand fully why he succeeded as an athlete.
Yeah, and you
see the completely different approach. And a big reason is that you saw him take two completely different approaches. Where with music, it didn't even seem like, he was trying to book gigs and get record deals without even trying to hone his craft or develop his skills. He just wanted to have cool long hair and party like a rock star. And he got psyoped into thinking that just because Slayer or Ozzy Osbourne or AC/DC and all these or Kiss, had a certain hairstyle and played bass or guitar a certain way or sang a certain way, or did these drugs or slept with all these women, that they were the ones being metal, and that's what you need to do to get an actual deal, not invest your whole life into music because you love doing music. Like when I read about Eddie Bravo's music career, you never really felt like he loved music. You felt like he liked.
He definitely loves it, but he didn't love the practice.
Yes, yeah.
He
Like he loved listening to music and talking about it and theorizing about
and putting it together,
producing
it,
and thinking about like how to do this with the other thing. But he wasn't loving like practicing. He wasn't putting 4 hours a day into music the way he's putting into jiu-jitsu. But whereas like with jiu-jitsu, he's just doing jiu-jitsu, like his whole life is, I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I got to study this technique, I got to smoke some weed, and then like really figure out like how do I elevate this, how do I dissect this hole in my game. Like his whole life was like, I got to hone my craft, whereas me that attitude was not there in the music industry. In music it was, I want to do music because I want to get famous and be with a bunch of chicks and have money, and then when you do an activity that requires your entire life's work for the purpose of money, you'll never really achieve success, and you also won't make any money doing that.
I think that that's a big piece of that right there. Is the pursuit from a young age was for like the wrong reasons that a lot of people like from a young age might get into, like, I want to be a famous football player so I can have all the benefits of being a famous football player rather than even just the act of football itself, right? Like I kind of identify with that. But then his thing was always the music producing, being the person that put it all together. So that's what he was passionate about, and that's really what translated over to him as an athlete and a coach, because he figured out which order to put things in. We were just talking about Todd White. Todd White was his main training partner. He would bring the mats over to Nickelodeon Studios when Todd White was working on SpongeBob SquarePants, and they would train for an hour at lunch and just drill, put the moves in order, give names to the moves, and now that's been spread out to over 150 schools at this point, where 150 black belts are leading schools.
Yeah, and it's crazy because when you were doing that, you're pretty much a guy like me right now.
When?
Like when he was doing that with Todd White, back in the day, he was just like working at some strip club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
he was
a
service industry guy that was just doing whatever he can to hustle it to keep financing his next dream, which is basically what I'm doing on this pedicab. So
right.
Yeah, you were an equivalent to you were just a guy like me,
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
You get to see that whole journey too.
Yeah.
Which, I think a lot of us in the game of jiu-jitsu really identify with that too, because we start to realize, like, how do we move our lives around and live a life that allows us to take part in this thing that keeps us physically and mentally well.
Yeah. And also I think the thing about Eddie with the music was that, from reading the book, you weren't surrounding yourself with people that were dedicated to their craft. But in jiu-jitsu, everyone that you're around is dedicated to their craft.
And with James,
with
James was the person along for the ride with him because he was so dedicated to it, right? And then they'd have this person come on, this person fall off, this person come on. And like you said about the long hair, is he thought he could just find somebody with long hair to be the front man of his band, because he thought all that mattered was that you had long hair and you like looked like a rock star. And so that's just right along the lines of what you're talking about.
Dude, that Rockstar John guy was crazy.
Rockstar John, we actually just found him recently on Facebook.
What happened to him?
I think he's still making music, still continuing to pursue it.
Good shit.
But I haven't talked to him yet, but we've just became Facebook friends.
But that's beautiful.
Yeah.
The fact that you're still making music means that you actually loved music for the sake of making music.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing that you realize about an environment like 10th Planet, whether it's in Austin or somewhere else, is that artist community of people who are like super dedicated to an art.
Yeah,
martial art,
it is an art, yeah.
But like that artist community really brings people up as well.
That actually is what real success in music looks like. Is not amounting to anything as a musician, but 30 years later still doing gigs and playing music because you love music that much. Well, that is what actual success I think in music is.
I visited
here. You know what I mean? Like that's what I really think it is.
Because I visited here every year when I was a kid, and you're living out in Hill Country now.
Yeah.
Sometimes my mom, my dad, myself, my girlfriend, we all might go out to see people play music that we've known since I was like 8 years old. Because I used to visit here every year to go see people play music. And I used to think it was all about radio plays, but like you said, I now know that it's about the fact that you're still able to make music in front of people and have people show up and have it go well, and then continuing to just live your life in that manner, pursuing the art.
Dude, you're playing music, and you're able to dedicate a certain amount of time throughout your schedule to play music at an area where people want to listen to you.
Yeah.
Your life is pretty good.
I mean, think
Like
about
you're
Ellis.
not bro, you're not starving. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Think about Ellis. I mean, you might be, it might be difficult. It might be a hard thing to keep pursuing, but I think
But it gives you purpose and it makes you happy, because when there's a dream, you're never poor when you got a dream that you're chasing.
The
pursuit.
Yeah.
You just aren't, you know?
I mean, you know how it is with the things that you do, right?
1,000%, yeah.
Seeing things have progress, seeing things make progress, seeing what progress looks like. You know it from, we were just talking about like how seriously you were into like fighting itself. You weren't just into jiu-jitsu, you were into fighting. And to see the growth that you've had from being into fighting, from having the focus that you've had on jiu-jitsu more so over the years, I was just talking to somebody in a private session this morning about like every 6 months there's like some jump that you feel or you see, or maybe every 4 months, but like you don't know what it is, but you've gotten better. And that is where you also see progress in other places in your life, where you can see how that progression works.
I see it through my old videos. I see improvements through my old videos.
Yeah.
I see the comfort, because I watch these old videos and I'm like, oh, these are good. And then I'm like watching it now, I'm like, oh my God, I'm way more comfortable. I'm like, okay, well, how could I like hone my craft even more? Like, I'm good at trolling council meetings. I don't like initiating confrontations with people. How do I get better at crashing rallies? Like, how do I get better at this other weakness in my game? Like, how do I get better at this weakness in my game? And how do I do it in a way where instead of going through the object, I can figure out a way to smoothly walk around the object?
Yeah. We I mean, I've gotten to see my growth as a writer too. I mean, it's just part of the journey that we're all on, right?
Yeah.
As someone who's being creative in any endeavor, right? Or even just seeing your own life, seeing the growth that comes from year to year, where you're continuing to be able to make a living pedicabbing, you're continuing to pursue what you're doing creatively, like being able to just do that and being able to continue to find ways to be yourself and have fun. I mean, that's what kind of keeps you alive. Really.
1,000%, yeah. And I love riding. I love riding this tricycle. Like,
I love riding my tricycle.
I love it. It's so much fun. Like, I enjoy it thoroughly. But I also understand that a big reason why I enjoy it is because I'm like chasing these other dreams.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think the moment you stop chasing big dreams is the moment you stop enjoying the tricycle, and it becomes like a labor, and it becomes work, and it becomes commodified. Versus like, no, dude, I want to be on this bike. This is fun.
Yeah.
I love playing my songs to people. I love talking to these like these corporate people that come into town. Like, I love talking shit to these people. Like, I love fighting communism on this Like, I love it, dude. I can't
imagine
bike.
Somebody from like San Francisco, because I saw the like bit that you did, but like I'm just imagining like a real like somebody from San Francisco coming into town, and you're like just like the way that you could like ask them questions that are like they're like not sure if you're trolling them or not. And like you could just like act like you're going along with it just to see what they say, just to see where they go with it, just to see where this Twitter employee will go with their beliefs.
Yes,
on the back of your tricycle.
You could do there's a lot of interesting things that you can do. You know what I find out though is I get this recurring question a lot when I pedicab, and they're like, bro, how do you play these songs in Austin? Everybody asks me that, but very few people get mad at me for playing the songs. But everybody says, how do you play these songs? And it really makes you understand that it really gives you a firsthand view as to what people really think about what's going on.
Well, dude, hilarious that you brought this up, because it's something that like my girlfriend's youngest came home. So I was at the fights on Friday, so I get home super late. Carl had a sick knockout.
Oh, I saw, dude, the post-fight interview, but put him on the map.
Yeah, Carl had a sick knockout. Sick post-fight interview. Jonah fought. Angel fought. They lost. Angel lost in the first round, but we just watched it, him and I together, and there are some good things. And he got himself kind of involved in a firefight, but things that he'll adjust.
What happened?
He ended up TKO.
Oh wow!
But he had some really good boxing throughout it. But
hey, you got caught. You just got in a firefight.
Yeah, against a good guy, UFC guy, level guy.
Okay.
So who trains with Brandon Moreno. So I mean, really good fight for him.
Yeah, no shame.
But I come home late. Luca comes in the next morning and is like telling me about school and telling me about Pride Week and stuff. because they're doing Pride Week again. Like
Oh,
they
they always do
can't,
Pride
they
Week,
can't,
yeah.
they do it like 4 times a year. They do Pride Week like 4 times a year, and this year they're making the kids outline their hands. So they're forcing their kids to take part in Pride Week by making them outline their hands and then make it a part of a rainbow flag, right? Like outline their hand on construction paper, put it up on a rainbow flag, right? So they're forcing you to take part. So what's hilarious is Luca's going around to his friends, and he's like, Zach, I was doing a test to my friends just to see what they said, and I was like, you can't believe he's like, I did it to 5 kids. He's like, you can't believe anything they're just saying. This is all propaganda, man. And he's like, all 5 of the kids were like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's so, point being to him, I was like, what does that teach you? It teaches you that, like, you have to be willing to, like, say that to get other people to,
But
like,
you know
to
that
voice it sometimes.
You know that the way that they're pushing this in the school, all this is going to do is just bring back actual bigotry.
The kids
It's going to bring back actual bigotry.
The kids are sick of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kids are done with it.
It's just going to create a backlash where, like, gay people actually do feel like they're being attacked. You know what I mean? It's going to go back to, like, what it was like in the 1940s and 50s and stuff like that. But it's also, but you know what I think too?
It's not going to go back to the 40s or 50s. But the point being is that, like, if you're shoving your dick down my throat all day long, like, eventually I'm going to be like, I don't want your dick in my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't. But I think what this is designed to do is the purpose is to create another January 6th, and the purpose is to create, like,
that's what James Lindsay says. James Lindsay says they're waiting for their big trans moment.
Yeah, the purpose is to create, like, everything that's happening is designed to actually they want to bring white nationalism back, because if they
want division. They want you to fight back.
Well,
against
it's also that
look bad.
Yeah, well, there's that, but it's also, when you bring stuff like that back, it's more of an excuse to, like, censor the internet. It's more of an excuse to take your rights away. Because, you can't handle freedom because because look, we have a rise of Nazism now.
Yeah,
yes, it was in the book. It was in the book. Yeah.
It's
exactly.
Like they
hey, trust Jeffrey Epstein's friends to give you public health advice. Yeah,
they want to fuck you up so bad that you can't be trusted with freedom, right? Like, they want to make you incapable of being able to deal with freedom. You know, so that's part of what all these school shootings are about. It's like you're not.
Well, kind of.
You're not safe. You're not.
There's more to it than that, but
you're not. But, like, they'll go into it like we're not responsible enough to have guns.
Yeah, I think that's all. I think there's many layers to stuff like that, right? Like, I don't think every school shooter is, like, just given MK Ultra mind control.
Not
drugs.
everyone.
I actually think very few are. But here's what I think happens, and it's that you don't need to. Because you're overly medicating children and giving them so many pharmaceutical substances at such a young age, and you combine that with growing up in a single-parent home. Yeah. You combine that with the fact that mass media becomes your babysitter. You combine that with the fact that the parents don't have as much time to spend with you because of currency devaluation, and so you have the wrong types of role models. You combine that with the fact that technology is all around you, and nobody's teaching. This technology is developing at a faster rate than people can understand how to use the technology. And then you put all of these things together, not to mention the stuff that the doctors try to force you to take to go to school, right? Not to mention that, because, you know,
we talking about the schmaxines?
We love science. The juice. We're talking about juice. We're talking about the juice that people are forced to drink.
Oh, the juice.
Juice, yeah.
I thought you said
a lot of
juice.
The juice. The juice.
We're allowed to talk about
apple
the juice.
Orange juice, cranberry juice, all types of juice.
We can talk about the juice.
A lot
of
juice.
We can't
talk
about the juice. Yeah.
But so you factor all of that stuff in, and you are creating a culture of mental illness. You are. I mean, this is like, it's the next step. It's like another type of MK Ultra.
Well,
right? It's a more efficient MK Ultra where you're, like, spraying darts at a board. Not everyone's gonna get fucked up from this, but enough people will get fucked up from something like this where you are gonna create more shootings, more
destabilization,
more sexual assaults, more demoralization, more of these horrible, horrible, horrible things, and you know, who benefits from it? The pharma companies,
I think
the tech companies.
That's what MK Ultra is about.
Yeah, so.
You know, that's kind of what the end stage of it all is, like pharmaceutical and social media, right? Like, two things that are poisoning people, right? Like, part of MK Ultra.
And hey, wait till the kids start getting puberty blockers. Wait till that happens.
Wait till those kids are on the other side of that transition and detransition and are now angry at the world. And they have a very good reason to be angry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen.
And they're all fucked because their hormones are fucked up.
Regardless of whether they detransition or not, or regardless of whether they feel like they're in the wrong body, none of that matters because all you're doing is creating lifetime customers for the pharmaceutical industry. It doesn't matter detransition, transition, what is a woman, all that stuff. Like, hey man, cool. Those are good for like the influencers on TPUSC to get their likes on Twitter. But what's really happening as a result of this, and the real reason why I have a problem with it is because like every kid that has to transition, you're putting like $1 million, like
1.3 was the
number.
or
something like. Where did you get that that info from?
I got it from Scott Newgren. I got it from the "What Is a Woman" documentary, and then I put it in the book. 1.3 million.
Okay, but who did that study? Because sometimes
it was Scott Nugent or something from like True Voices, which is like he's a guy who became he's a guy that became a girl that became a guy and regrets it.
Okay.
And so then they were like they're like
because everybody always has an agenda. Like everybody always has an agenda. I read the How to Lie with Statistics books. So it's one of those things where it's like whether it's $1 million or whatever it is,
it's a certain amount of money.
Anybody with a modicum of common sense understands that trans kids help pharma companies make money, and these pharma companies have been prescribing a lot of medications and have an incentive to get teachers and administrators to provide a lot of medications to a lot of kids. And in many cases, the need for these medications is very questionable. And when you put a bunch of foreign substances in your body combined with these other factors, you're a lot more likely to actually become a school shooter and have all these destabilizing problems. So my real issue with the whole giving puberty blockers to children is like, I think that shit should be banned. Just to put less money in the pharma companies' pockets, just so the pharma companies make less money. Like that's really that's the simplest reason why I'm against it.
The last 3 years of school,
that makes sense.
The last 3 years of school here in Austin have basically been like, hey, we can't do school normally until you take a pharmaceutical product. And then ever since the kids have been back in school, it's just been an onslaught of like gay pride, trans flags. You go into the school and every teacher is given, like every teacher can get a free gay pride, Black Lives Matter, trans flag, the one that has the rainbow and then the Illuminati triangle and Black Lives Matter and trans colors, right? But they don't get like a free Texas flag or like a free American flag.
Dude, there was a guy in Florida that they were talking about trying to charge someone for drifting through a pride mural on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I saw that.
But like you could burn an American flag during BLM, and that's fine, right? But like, anyway, the point is that like
downtown had Black Lives Matter written like across like 3 or 4 city blocks.
Yeah,
on public property.
Yeah,
this is public property. This isn't like Black Lives Matter.
Your taxes
property.
are paying for that.
Someone did
and
it.
No one's voting. Like, listen, if the entire city of Austin voted because they wanted it on the street, like, okay, well that's what your tax. If that's what you're okay with your tax dollars being used for, hey man, whatever. I can't say anything, but this is being done without your permission.
That's the part of the problem. Well, I mean, I get what you're saying when you say that, but part of the issue with this country is that like we are
so brainwashed that doesn't matter.
We're a republic.
Yeah,
we're not a democracy, right? Like we're a republic. Republic means we have some rules. Democracy means that like we can just make a poll for every single thing that we do and be like, if enough idiots believe in this thing, then the idiots win, and that's how we get to the idiocracy.
Yeah, that's what we're kind of getting there.
Which is like the idea that like people can watch riot after riot and everything that happened in 2020 and all of the bad things that happened and still be saying the same things and still be repeating what corporations say and still be like...
A lot of people just don't see information though.
That's true.
A lot of people just don't see it because you're talking about this too. That Danny guy was crying because he was worried about getting James sick because he had COVID and he was wearing 2 masks.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't see it.
So people just don't see it, or people just don't watch that on the news. Like nobody, like my dad and my mom are not going to see Joe Biden talking about making jokes about ice cream after a mass shooting. They're not going to see that clip. They're not going to see him talking like being sexual towards children.
Yeah.
50%
in
a video
Democrats,
when you're supposed to arrest a mass shooter.
50% of Democrats. 50% of Democrats. Like some number like that. Over 50% of Democrats thought there was an over 50% chance of COVID putting you in the hospital. So people really like aren't getting the right information.
And so it's like, okay, you have to fight back against this. But the problem that we're running into is we're not sure a lot of people aren't really sure who to fight back against, or they're fighting back against the wrong person and thinking that they're winning. You know what I mean?
Well, it's about all of us fighting back against the system, which again, like, is a part of the book as well, right?
And who's the system?
The system
Big
is
tech,
big tech,
big pharma, central banks,
multinational corporations,
and central banks,
establishment politicians, K through 12 universities. These
but,
are all the enemy.
Right, but the real end, like if you want to even compartmentalize it more, it's central banks, it's big pharma, and it's big tech companies, and it's also NGOs like the World Economic Forum and the UN and
right, but keep in mind though,
and those other and like the education stuff and everything else you just mentioned.
But who's poisoning
that
the kids?
That falls under their umbrella. Like that's still
under what umbrella?
Like the NGO umbrella, under the big tech umbrella, under the farm. Like it falls. Like the reason I didn't mention that is because it's already in that if you were to draw an umbrella, that would be in their umbrella.
That's the part of the system that eventually gets you into that, right? Like, so
yes.
I said this on another podcast too. Is like, at some point during 2020, I realized I don't just have an undergrad degree, I have a master's degree. So I did everything the system told me to do, but I don't have the opinions the system wants me to have. So I'm not invited into the system. The system is like all of the jobs that you need a college degree for and everything like that. Like, outside of the system is the entrepreneurial things, the gig economy, all that kind of stuff. So to watch kind of that system that you try and fit yourself in your whole life, to watch how much it rejects you for being you is just kind of an interesting.
It is interesting, but then when
see.
you operate outside of the system as your own entity, you see how accepted you are by a lot of people in the system, because a lot of people that are in the system
can't say anything.
Yeah, and they hate it, and they're actually like happy. Like when I play these songs,
yeah.
The reaction is, bro, how do you get away with playing this in Austin? And it's because people feel this way. They're just too scared to say anything.
They don't have a right
see me
to.
play the song. They're like, bro, finally.
Yeah.
There's a lot of relief when people get in my cab and I'm playing my Epstein song, talking about Hillary Clinton eating babies and all this stuff, totally joking around, you know. But
none of those people have gotten arrested. Jamie Kilstein had a great bit today on his Instagram about like Donald Trump getting arrested. He's like, it's like him talking to himself, and he's like, a president's finally getting arrested, and then like the other version of him is like, oh, did they get arrested for droning weddings? Did they get arrested for getting us into a bullshit war and then pulling us out and putting everyone there in danger? And then he's like, no, like Donald Trump, he like fucked a porn star or something like that. It's like, did they get caught like with Epstein or whatever? It's like, no.
Yeah, just really glad that we got someone with solid moral character like Joe Biden running things now. You know, the adults are back in charge. Zach, come on.
Remember that? The adults were back in charge.
The adults are back in charge.
And so that system itself, there are a lot of people within it. Because as I put in there, like you're just supposed to shut up or you're supposed to go along. But if you shut up, they also know you're not going along. So then eventually they start looking off, and people talk about this. Woke people are constantly looking for people to cut off, to cut away from the group.
Yeah.
It's a constant thing. So it's like there's a constant culling of the herd.
So I've never had, well, of course there's a culling of the herd, and that's what sudden death syndrome and all that stuff is about too, right?
That's a good culling.
But
of the
herd. That's for another time.
From the juice.
That's from another. Well, it's climate change. From climate change.
Yes.
Sudden death syndrome from climate change. All that.
And from straight people having too much sex, they're having heart attacks.
Well, it's also lifting weights, so you can't lift weights and eat organic food. Yeah,
that's
you can't
true.
do that. No, that's really bad for you.
You should eat more sugar.
Yes, those signs. You know, and these are the experts.
They are the experts.
Those are the
they
experts.
Said Captain Crunch is better than raw.
Mini wheats is better than beef. Yes.
Yes, this is true.
Trust the science.
Trust it.
And these are the same people that think that what is it called? Gender affirming care is fucking is totally safe.
But this is the thing about that system,
right?
So
is that the water in East Palestine is also great to drink. Drink that. Dude, also, please make sure to drink the water in East Palestine. Thank you.
This is the system, though, right? Like the system itself is now going along with things that are really preposterous. So that shift that you're feeling, that we're all feeling, it's happening because the system has gotten so stupid.
Well, this has been happening forever, and the good thing about everything is that nothing's changed at all, right? The media didn't become fascist overnight. We just finally see them for what they are. Like we've known about this forever, right?
Yep.
Like I've known that the news is fake for almost a decade, right? Like I've known that
the Obama
central
years
banks
taught
were
me.
evil. Well, I knew before because I saw like all the Zeitgeist movies and stuff like that. Like I knew about the Federal Reserve and how money printing and currency debasement leads to all of this stuff, but nobody's able to talk about that. You can't have a discussion with anybody, so you're silent. So you drink, you party, you have like casual sex with a bunch of women because you don't feel like you can connect with anybody. Because if you try to actually share how you feel, nobody's gonna like help you build on this or compartmentalize your thoughts. All they're gonna do is laugh at you and shun you,
and
so
think
you
you're crazy.
Yeah, and so you just don't say anything, and then like some slight indignation that you may or may not do or realize that you did is just gonna get you cut off from people, and people will just stop wanting to be your friends because of something that you didn't even realize that you did. I mean, it all leads to. It leads to where I'm at right now, right?
Well, but
you know what I mean? Like, it leads to where I'm at.
But what you're saying, though, too, is that on the alternative to that is once you start telling the truth, people are, like you see, people are really happy to hear that someone's telling the truth. And so the amount of support that you get for telling the truth is pretty high.
But you also need discipline to tell the truth. A lot of people jump in there, they watch a few videos, right, or they read a few books, and they just start speaking their truth. Right off the bat, when they've never lifted a weight in their life, they've never done a combat sport, they've never been through any actual adversity, and they've never built a foundation where they have a community, and then they just get totally creamed by everyone in society, and they wind up in those 4chan chat rooms, and they wind up they potentially become the mass shooters. They're the ones that become radicalized, that do the terror for the FBI. Like they become the some autistic fuck in the memes.
It takes,
you know what I mean?
It takes 12 FBI agents to convince 2 people to kidnap a governor, though.
Some shit like that. But
it was 12 FBI agents to 2 governors.
No, but
two non-FBI agents. Hilarious.
Either way, speaking truth or knowing like getting a more realistic idea of what's going on around you.
It takes a lot of work.
Well, it takes a lot of work, but it only works if you have a foundation for yourself. Like if I hadn't had my MMA fight and had a community of people that I was able to develop for like years before I even said anything. And the stuff I said, I always just said it as jokes, so people didn't know if I was serious or if I was joking. Nobody ever knew, so it was funny,
Yeah.
And you made all of it sound really, really, really silly and goofy, so people can't get angry at you if you're silly and goofy.
Yeah.
And you're also saying that because you're not really sure if that's true or not. You're like suspecting it is, so just have fun with it, and these are funny jokes.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, I didn't feel comfortable even saying that stuff on Facebook until I like won my fight, right? Or until I was like winning jiu-jitsu competitions, or until I like knew that I had like a best friend that was down no matter what. Yeah. Or knowing that I have a girlfriend that's like a ride or die and been with me through every dart I've thrown at the board, that's been unquestioningly supportive.
Yeah.
And loving throughout everything I'm doing, regardless of whether or not she's interested in it, which newsflash, she's not.
That's our girlfriend sometimes. They're not going to be interested in everything
and that's fine. That's great. Cool. We watch trashy reality TV together when I go home. And
That's
I love
good.
it. I love it. I don't have to think about any of this bullshit that I do. It's great. It's like my favorite thing to do. But the point is that like all of these things,
have people that
you
can
have a
rely on
foundation, so you're comfortable saying things. Like you're happy to make content and throw things at the board because you don't care. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. Like I'm doing this because I want to make this, and if people get angry, I don't care because my circle of people that I love and look up to are not going to judge me. This episode is brought to you by Balcones Roofing and Remodeling. Have you been leaving your house outside again? Texas weather can wreak havoc on your home, especially your roof. And if you haven't had it inspected lately, chances are that outside elements could be making their way inside. Trust Balcones Roofing and Remodeling to perform a thorough roof inspection and offer long-lasting solutions. They are the only 5-star rated roofer in Austin who specialize in installing the impact-resistant F-Wave Revia and back all roof replacements with a $20,000 guarantee. To schedule a roof inspection, call 512-937-8805 or visit balconesroofsaustin.com. This episode is brought to you by 512 Boutique Events. 512 Boutique Events services all catering and staffing needs to any event in Austin and the surrounding areas. Anything from weddings to corporate events to festivals. They are even equipped to provide bar services. Visit their website today at www.512boutiqueevents.com for contact information. Calendar fills up quickly, so be sure to get your event booked today.
That's the most valuable thing about a jiu-jitsu community in some respects, right? Is like during COVID, it wasn't like, you had similar opinions about COVID to me. Is that like you feel more comfortable because you have real, like, while the internet world is like silencing you and telling you you're wrong and calling you misinformation.
Yeah, we were training all the time. We didn't give a fuck. We had secret fight
here
clubs.
we were like training and talking to each other and realizing that like all of these other people believe the same things we believe too, which gives you more confidence. And you're a real reporter now. Like if you know, like I engage with a lot of people. So like
I'm not a reporter.
But point being is like you're not a journalist, you're a reporter. You're reporting what you believe and you're having those conversations here.
Yeah.
But the things that you're hearing out in the world are influenced by the people around you and the fact that you have enough people around you telling you a similar story. So like I feel like, I just had this conversation with Sean from Exos and just I said to him, I feel like the book has a really good pulse on the culture at the time. And he's like, yeah, I think so too. It's like, but that comes from the fact that I'm constantly talking to people, and when I have conversations about these topics, they are affirming or helping me adjust my beliefs around what the public truly believes rather than what the television tells you the public believes.
Exactly. I mean, that's super well said.
When COVID was going on, I had this feeling of like, there are a bunch of people that are still covering the news and are still journalists and are reporting on COVID who haven't left their house in months. So, like, you're, like, telling us how the world is, but you're inside a room.
Which is insane because you think that these are, like, professional propagandists, but some of these people also are propagandized themselves because they went through that system, and that might just be what they think.
Yeah.
That just might be, like, how they view the world.
Yeah, I mean,
because these companies, they, like, actually make it a point to hire certain people. Like, people like us do not get corporate jobs, even if we are the most qualified, because we're a headache.
Well, we are a headache.
Because we're free-thinking people who are going to do what we want to do, and we have self-autonomy, and we don't need their approval.
Well, I'm glad we can also have this conversation too at this point, because we're finally at the point where this is kind of just known too, is that you're also white, so that's kind of a problem. That's kind of a problem in the workplace.
Actually, I'm Jewish. That's true. They don't care. They don't give a shit.
They don't care. Look at how you present yourself.
Well, what
you
are
do
white.
Is
you tell people that you're 3% black, and that's what I start to do on the city council diet.
Well, I mean,
because
like
everybody, Zach, is like 2% black.
That's true.
Everybody at some point had a black relative at some point, so you're like 1%. Just everybody's actually like probably 1% black.
But like to that point, though, I think we talked about this. You and I have definitely talked about this before. But like Alamo Draft House, there's like doesn't hire white men.
Really?
Yeah. So like there's.
Wait. Where did you find this?
Someone who worked at Alamo Draft House told me.
Was it Jewel?
Why would you say that on the internet?
I mean, Jewel's a code name.
Jewel's a code name for the girl who used to live in her car and make great music.
Yeah.
Remember her from Alaska?
Yeah, from Alaska.
Yeah. But yeah. But I mean, these corporations, like, they're looking for a very, like, if you have your pronouns on your, like, they have pronouns in their email list. They have pronouns on their.
But they thems are not like there are also studies about people with they them pronouns are like a lot less likely to get hired.
Well, it's kind of tough to get hired when you're advertising that you think you're more than one person. That's called schizophrenia.
Well, yes, but then there's also this ESG stuff where they're trying they're really trying to do a lot of really crazy stuff with the ESG and Operation Choke Point, and you know about that, right?
We were looking at Nike shoes yesterday for the kids for like running or something, and one of the boxes had the box had on it. It was like about Nike's commitment to like fight climate change. So like the ESG isn't just like something in the background now. ESG is something that they're putting on the box, right?
Well, none of it actually has anything to do with fighting climate change because people are taking like private jets
for sure.
So like and or like how many billions of dollars worth of masks are thrown into the into the water. The same people that want to fight climate change want us to have central bank digital currencies, which will eventually have negative interest rates, which basically encourages a culture of rampant consumerism. And rampant consumerism is one of the worst things that you can do for the environment.
Cheap consumerism,
rampant consumerism is an environmental safety hazard. So people need to understand that like the narrative behind climate change, like while there's environmental destruction that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed immediately, right? The climate change, and maybe climate change is real or not, but the narrative behind climate change is a total psyop.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the narrative behind climate change is just an extension of what we've been going through.
It's give the powerful more power over you because we don't trust you to have responsibilities.
Precisely.
That's what the narrative is. And then they get a bunch of people who embody every form of mental illness to protest climate change.
Well, that's kind of
and the reason is because like they're like this because of climate change. They're like this because of capitalism. That's what they want to tell you, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you're actually like this because you were raised on big pharma and television, and mom and dad were not in the house to raise you properly, and we don't have sound money, and this is what happens. But nobody wants to have that conversation.
Yeah, they're out.
Even the conservatives don't fucking want to have the conversation. You try to talk about, dude. I try to talk about Bitcoin and why it's important to adopt it as legal tender and to have self custody of your finances and all that stuff. And a lot of these conservative activists, they don't have no idea what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No idea, or they think it's like silly, like I'm just some, I'm their loot, like, you know.
Yeah, but they're like they know
I'm
the
just like a little Alex Jones. Yeah, exactly.
The system, they know the system's screwing them over, but they're not doing anything to stop the system.
They're not doing anything to actively opt out or walk away.
I mean,
or protect themselves from the system that is screwing them. The U.S. is not even going to be the number one. The U.S. dollar is not even going to be the number one currency in 10 years.
Yeah, it's possible at the rate that we're going.
Possible.
It's probable.
It's going to happen.
Right?
Like,
you know.
There's no denying it, and to be honest, considering how we've been and what we've financed and who we've let control our government, that might not even be like the worst thing in the world for the world. It's just a matter of we got to be careful about what replaces that.
Yeah.
Like if it's like the digital yuan that replaces the U.S. dollar, we're in a lot of trouble.
You and I are in a lot of trouble. We're not going to have any money.
I don't care if you have Bitcoin; it doesn't matter. Just go to El Salvador.
That's true.
Yeah, but like, if the digital yuan or your gold, right? Like if the digital yuan replaces the U.S. dollar as the number one currency. Yo, you're in a world of trouble, but like trying to like do everything you can to save the dollar is not necessarily what we need to do either. It's just a matter of like, while understanding that things are collapsing and creating a collective conscious effort of individuals to shape the world after the collapse that's better for humans as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I mean, something like 80% of the dollars in circulation were made in the last 2 years. Like this was like a
10% of your dollars in your bank account are like 10% of the dollars in your bank account are actually held in your bank, and the other ones are God knows where.
I mean, and apparently they're you know, if you're SVB or some of these other companies, as long as you can make all the bad bets in the world and then you get bailed out, and then Janet Yellen's sitting there talking to some senator from Oklahoma who's saying, so if you're bailing out these big banks and you've told people that you're not going to bail out smaller regional banks, what's stopping my ranchers and farmers in Oklahoma from leaving their local bank and going to one of these big banks? She's like, well, we don't want people to do that. Well, you're telling them to do that.
Yeah. Oh, I saw that video. That video is insane.
It's crazy.
And then they're trying to turn off the off ramps then they're trying to like block all the off ramps with the lies about the Bitcoin mining and like trying to go after all the crypto exchanges and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that stuff that's happening. Fortunately, you have really good minds that are working on better proposals and better off ramps, and I think that's going to win out in the end.
The culture's changing too.
Well, yeah, that's going to win out in the end. So
CNN Plus was around for a month.
Yeah, it was
like that's
gone,
the whole
yeah.
thing of the system. The system's trying to convince you they have the numbers, and you're getting these data points that tell you the system doesn't have the numbers.
No, the only thing that you can do right now, the best way to fight what's happening is to mock these people into oblivion. There was a trans kids protest, and I was actually going to testify, but I had to do these podcasts, so I just was like, you know what, man, whatever.
That was today?
Yeah.
What was the trans kids protest about?
Oh, there's like a committee, is the House committee to ban.
Bill 12 or something, right? Didn't I just see this?
1688 or something. I don't remember what it was, but like it's basically they're just banning trans surgeries and like hormones for minors.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not stopping this adults from getting this.
Right.
I don't even think they need to. Like they shouldn't. If we got better money, right? If we just used better money, right? And didn't have money that we could just print out of thin air to just spend on whatever the hell we wanted to, this type of stuff wouldn't even happen because there would be no financial incentive to build more pediatric gender clinics anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I think that stuff takes care of itself once you use better money, regardless.
Well, I also to that point, right, is that the system that makes the money and gives the money out supports that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but they print the money.
They print the money,
and the
give
pharma companies are doing whatever they can to just try to create more drugs for more people.
But think about it, those
and also the food companies.
There's a lot of.
So sorry, I'm interrupting you. Okay, so fun fact, like in the 2010s, they were finding out that like the Roundup and the chemicals that you get from like eating your Monsanto food was like causing like
cancer.
Not even the cancer, but it was like had adverse effects on like human sexuality and like gender function and all types of stuff. Right,
Yeah.
the food that you're eating. And so, all of a sudden, now these people are all really concerned about trans rights. So it's one of those things where it's like
they almost created the problem.
Yeah, like maybe you created the problem because of what people are consuming. Because there was always people like that, right? And you should never judge them or meet them or like commit hate crimes. Like none of that stuff is something people should do. But the stuff that's being put out there in what you're consuming is I'm almost certain that it's creating an extremely large amount of these like quote unquote trans kids that you're seeing, and also woke white women are like. It's like the new Prada bag now. So
my kid's trans.
Yeah, it's like having a Prada bag.
Look, my kid's trans.
That was gonna be like my little speech that I was gonna try to give and talk about like my wife. She wanted a Prada bag, and
I gave
like,
her a trans kid instead.
Yeah, but but like she couldn't afford it. Like I work at HEB. I barely make above minimum wage. Like we couldn't afford the Prada bag, and my wife she had to do OnlyFans and start turning tricks just so she can get the bag that she's always wanted. Ever since she got out of college. But like she's never been able to even afford it because of inflation, and the bag just gets more and more expensive. And we believe in equity. We hate price gouging. So she only charged $25 a pop for her services. But that all changed when I took my kid to a drag show, and Sprinkles, the drag queen, sat on my 5-year-old son's lap, and it was then my son knew that he wanted to transition.
And now we don't need the bag.
Right. And like luckily the CEO of HEB, he supports this fully, and he's funding this. He's funding the surgery right out of his own pocket, okay? And it's like, and my wife, she doesn't even need a Prada bag anymore, okay? She's getting so much the validation she's getting on the internet from my son going through this, like,
it's more than a Prada bag.
It's priceless, and it's more than a Prada bag. And if you're gonna take this away from my wife, you're a monster.
Yeah, you're a monster. But they
that's kind of like the. I think that's how you go about that. That's how you come at these people.
Well, you do two things. You explain it and then you make fun of it, right?
Yes.
And I think that was the thing that with the book that I felt like I had a major opportunity, right? It's a story about two best friends, but it's also a Trojan horse for like the grand conspiracy, talking about the CIA, talking about culture, talking about how culture is poisoned, talking about the false idols that they put in front of people. Talking about the way that
your favorite rock and roll rebels wound up being the biggest simps for the establishment.
Yeah. Chapter 9. I'm in Laurel Canyon driving through their old stomping grounds, and they're trying to cancel Joe Rogan while I'm driving around. And I'd spent the last 6 months thinking about Laurel Canyon before I went because I was like, this is such an interesting piece of rock history that kind of also explains the CIA narrative where Jim Morrison's dad was the general at the Gulf of Tonkin incident, the false flag that got us into Vietnam.
Yeah.
9 months after JFK was killed for being the anti-military establishment guy that he was, the anti-CIA, anti-secret society. We've heard the speeches. I know you have too.
I've heard him.
He gets killed.
He's talking about weather manipulation too in his speeches.
9 months later, we go to war in Vietnam, and we've basically been running drugs for our wars for the last 60 years, whether it's Vietnam, Iran-Contra, Afghanistan, the list goes on. So, I mean, we've watched now, and that's all a CIA connection kind of thing. And then I kind of talk about Disney as well and the way that the corporations and entertainment can be beholden to government. Walt Disney was a special agent for the FBI from 1940 until his death. The day after Pearl Harbor, the military took over Disney Studios, and they basically gave Disney a crazy sum of money to make way more stuff, way more film than they'd ever made before, made a ton of propaganda over those few years, and it basically saved the company because Walt had this style of entrepreneurship where he would make money and he would throw all the money into the next project and all the money into the next project, and 2 projects in a row were tough because
Fantasia bombed.
Which
is crazy. It was actually really good.
Which is actually really good, but it was probably at that time was probably just almost like a look what I can do kind of piece, right?
Yeah.
Like he was like, when you think back of Fantasia, like there's a score underneath it, and then there's the vision that everyone has is Disney going, Mickey going like this and everything like that, and the water coming up. And then Peter Pan was 1939, and it had no European release because just like COVID, there weren't any movie theaters open.
Because there was a war, yeah.
Because there was a war going on over there already. So that ended up being where, you can kind of follow these narratives through our culture and really get an understanding of where we stand today, and where we stood at the time that I wrote this in 2022.
It's pretty insane. And then he was like homeboys with Werner von Braun.
Yeah, Werner von Braun.
Listen, man, punch Nazis, but also we got to trust them completely on interstellar travel. You know,
Yeah, I
what's the
mean, we
problem?
definitely went
Hey,
to the moon.
Of course, yeah.
We of course we went to the moon.
Totally, and that's why NASA needs more money because they need to spray the sky to like cool
With Bill
the
Gates.
planet from
Yeah.
climate change. Yeah,
And they
yeah, what could
also
go wrong?
the
What
Earth
could go wrong?
the Earth is definitely round.
Oh yeah,
100%.
1,000%. Well, it's a spinning ball, of course.
It's
yeah.
a spinning ball.
We are right now moving 100,000.
No,
100,000 miles?
67,000 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, at least spinning. We're spinning at
So I
67,000
do have a
miles an
confession.
hour.
I haven't looked into the flat Earth stuff as much as
Well, I mean, I haven't either.
I haven't really looked
not me
into it.
neither.
I just think it's fucking hilarious. I think that's just like funny as
That's
fuck.
the
though.
grand.
That's fucking
but
funny.
once you understand what flat Earth is and what the flat Earth, like what Eddie's always been talking about, it's kind of like the can we talk to you about the grandest, like the thing that everyone says is you're an idiot, and like
Earth.
oh what are you, a flat earther? But it's like when you unpack what that is that Eddie's always talking about what are they talking to kids about? They're talking to kids about dinosaurs in space because they want to convince you that religion's not real. They want to convince you of their story.
Well, you could still find out that religion and God is real by having a greater understanding of dimensions that are out there. Like, there's like so many like actual interstellar dimensions that have been discovered that we don't even know about it on a whole bunch of other planets. And those interstellar dimensions could be like what the afterlife winds up becoming.
Yeah.
So like I don't know, man. I think that
Or we
like,
could live under a firmament and heaven could be above us and hell could be below us. That's possible too. It's as possible as the Big Bang Theory.
Who knows? I mean, who knows, right? The point is that like
the 8th thing in the Bible says that we live under a dome. It's like Genesis chapter 1 and like verse 8 or 9 is like talking about the firmament.
But who wrote the Bible?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Who wrote it? You weren't there. Like, who wrote it? How did this stuff like? How did this stuff even get manifested?
I'm not totally sure. I've been going to church for like a year. We're like there.
You know what my philosophy is? Because like
trying to figure out. That's my next question.
No, here's what I think happens. Right?
Who wrote it? A bunch of people wrote it actually.
A bunch of like, and I think these things are guides for how to live your life.
For sure.
It's one of those things that helps you get a foundation. The Bible, the Torah, any religious text is a certain.
The satanic text as well.
Of course, they tell you wear a mask and give vaccine and praise Fauci. You know,
you can get it at any K through 12 school.
Oh yeah, you can. Give your kid the puberty blockers. It's good for you. It's equity. It's inclusion. Anyway,
cut your kid's dick off.
Why not?
Why not?
Having a penis is a symbol of white supremacy.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, get rid of it.
You might get a better job.
You will get a better job.
You will get a better job.
And if you don't want to date the, what's it called? If you're upset because your girlfriend has male genitalia, well, guess what? You're committing violence. That's violence.
That's true.
That's violence.
That's
violence.
True. But yeah, I mean, so the whole, we've kind of covered like the whole system itself, right? Like,
wait, dude, hold up. Here's what I was trying to say.
Tell me.
And it's that, people had to do a lot of trial and error before they found out what food was good, what food was bad, what you can eat, what you can't eat. Yeah, a lot of people died, right? But you don't think that people were just eating plants from the trees that were growing around that caused hallucinations, and all of a sudden you saw these hallucinations, and it may not even be a hallucination. It could have been something that just opened up your consciousness, so you saw this stuff that happened, and that could have been also how these books helped get written.
You smoked weed for the first time in a while today, didn't you?
Yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday.
You got through 100 pages, smoked weed, got through
about 100 pages of that book, yeah.
I mean, that's that's the higher consciousness right there. That's the experience.
It can be, but
it
depends on how you do it and what you do it, who you do it with, and you got to guard your energy. Like if you're doing it around people that aren't like trying to advance to the same level that we're advancing, you'll just have a shitty high.
It's true,
right?
You hang around.
Yeah, you'll just feel bad. You'll be paranoid. You'll be uncomfortable, and that's like I had bad experiences with weed when I was younger because the people I was smoking with were just like bad people and just fucking kind of losers and degenerates, and I just felt like paranoid and nervous, and I never was able to shake it. But doing it with people that are like serving a purpose or understanding when you should smoke and why, and like what your intention, like set your intention for.
You're more
after
confident
you smoke,
in who you are
better.
as well, though. Too.
Yeah,
you know who you are.
Like I'm never
right?
gonna smoke weed before giving pedicab rides because it doesn't help me give pedicab rides, right? But I would smoke weed before going to jiu-jitsu because it'll help me become more creative doing jiu-jitsu. Or I'll smoke weed before going fishing.
You'll have more fun
because it'll make you more connected to nature. Or I'll smoke weed before I want to read a book because it'll get me more connected to the book, right?
Yeah.
Like so, it
plugs you in for sure.
It plugs you in. It plugs you into like being zoned in on something that you want to do or say, right? But
above all else, it's like the most. It's like there's no drug that can plug you into focusing on something you want to focus on more than weed. But smoke weed before something you don't want to focus on, you're gonna have a tough time focusing on the thing you're supposed to focus on.
Yeah. So you got to understand. There's got to be a better understanding like of when to do it and when not to do it, and what's like when do you drink coffee? You don't drink coffee before you go to bed, right?
It's true.
You know, so there's a lot of that. That's my 2 cents on marijuana.
On smoking weed, you have it's required to smoke weed before you go to jiu-jitsu.
At 10th Planet, yeah,
That's true.
That's how you get promoted. Well, yeah, you have to like listen. If you want to get to the next belt, you gotta smoke a lot of weed and also believe that the world is flat.
That's
you
true.
will never get your black belt if you think the Earth is round.
Some people have their black belt who think the Earth is round, but they got it before.
You had a match.
What was that?
How was your match?
Oh,
you went up against a pedicabber.
I know.
I know. Eric's great. Yeah, you went up against a fellow
guy,
pedicabber.
right?
Great guy.
Yeah. We Eric's training with B Team, came down here from I guess he was training in Boston before. So he's a fellow Northeast guy.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. We had a good match.
I want to see the full video of it actually.
I put the highlights up of like things I did and everything. But yeah, I mean, I won in overtime, but really good pressure. Did a lot of things that I learned through the process of writing this book too. My jiu-jitsu's gotten a lot better because I've gotten to talk to Eddie about jiu-jitsu.
He seemed like he had some pretty good wrestling.
He hit me with the judo, something judo related, and then I just
you got the butterfly right away. Yeah,
because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a little bit of connection. Hit me with like some kind of judo thing, and I didn't expect him to stand because apparently he likes closed guard, or it seemed like
he had good sub defense. So he defended that armbar really well.
Yeah, I thought I had that one.
Yeah,
but yeah, good top pressure.
I haven't rolled with him yet. I feel like it'd be fun.
He's good. He's good. I just ended up playing good top pressure. I got like a sweet head and arm, like a sweep from lockdown. I threatened the head and arm a few times. Threatened an arm bar. Just did everything that I wanted to do that time. You know, kind of all the stuff that's in my game that's coming out right now, and you know, a lot of the stuff is. You know, I'm seeing my game progress a lot, obviously, from all the conversations I had with Eddie and just having him break the sport down to me at 12 a.m. on a car ride from Gauss, Texas, down here to Austin.
Which is wild. Yeah, you were there. You saw me perform.
Yeah, that's right.
I performed,
You were at the Gauss, Texas one.
Yeah, I was.
That's right.
Those guys are great. I love the flow guys. That's
right.
It was like Redneck Coachella, bro. That's what it was.
That was such a crazy experience.
Yeah.
Sam was like telling Eddie, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude." Like it's
Why did he be sorry?
I have no idea. Eddie got paid. Eddie wasn't mad about it at all.
No.
Eddie wasn't mad about it at all.
Well,
It's like an outdoor venue, and Eddie did a good job too that night.
Yeah, we all did good, except for that one guy. There was one guy who was like just dropping fucking N bombs with the hard R in the beginning. Did you see that or not? There was a guy in the beginning was just fucking just yelling N bombs with a hard R, and it just got fucking awkward as fuck. It's just like that was his idea.
Who was this guy?
I don't know. I think his name was like Bitcoin Ben or something like that.
Bitcoin Ben.
Yeah, apparently like he gave $1,000 worth of Bitcoin to like the best comic.
Yeah.
But it wasn't me, so fuck you, dude. Fuck that guy.
Bitcoin Ben. That's why you just threw him under the bus.
Yeah,
because
he should get exactly.
That's what you get, dude.
I should have got those. That G.
Dude.
To be fair, though, it would probably only be worth like $800 right now.
Yeah, it would.
But who cares? Who gives a shit?
Who cares? It would have been yours. You would have spent it already.
No, I would definitely not have spent it. I'd be holding it. Yeah, I would have sent it to my Colts. Yeah, I would not have fucking spent that.
No,
Bitcoin. No.
You don't spend your Bitcoin, huh?
I hodl that. I mean, I spent it on like
What are we supposed to do with our Bitcoin?
You use it to help other people.
That sounds like some woke
it's
fucking.
That no, you use it to like support.
That sounds
your
like
community.
what people do with tax dollars.
You use it to support your community. Like you buy you buy meat. You help companies that share your values, so they can grow and not get overtaken by fucking currency debasement.
By Satan.
Yeah,
it's true.
There's a company called KNC Cattle. I get my beef from them. I pay them in Bitcoin.
KNC
Cattle. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Guy named Cole Bolton. Hopefully they can sponsor this podcast. That'd be cool.
You should ask him.
I did actually. I was like, I want food instead of money. I want food, and that's all I want is food instead of money, and that would be awesome. Like, let's get it.
Give me a piece of this cow.
Exactly. Give me a cow.
Half a cow.
For one cow, I will blast your episode. I will put your name on this thing for like.
That's a whole cow, dude.
For like 3 months. Just give me a cow.
3 months for one cow.
Maybe honestly, I'll do it for a year. For a whole cow, I'll do it for a whole year.
I'm negotiating with you right now.
Yeah, I'd do it for a whole year. Whatever, dude.
We went to the year quick.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's gonna last you a long time. It might be a year of food.
It probably is a year of food. For however long the cow would last, I'll put that on the podcast.
For however long the cow lasts, you have to KNC meats.
Yeah, KNC cattle.
Cattle.
But also, like, if they usher in CBDCs, if banks start failing, if all this stuff starts happening, right? If we lose our status as the world reserve currency,
Is that the next
it's good to have something else, right? Like,
is that the next crisis, or is climate change the next crisis, or are they coming at the same time? The banking crisis and the climate change crisis at the same time.
what do you think?
Look, by climate change crisis, I mean
Zach,
like lockdowns.
what do you think?
I think the bank thing's happening right now.
I think the bank thing is more likely. I think the climate stuff, the crises could only happen if people comply with the crisis. People like when you're taking private jets to Davos, and when your liberal council members, city council offices have the AC cranked up to 60 degrees when it's like, when it's 40 degrees outside, right? Like, or
they just spend
money. Yeah. When you crank the AC up constantly, regardless of the weather, or when your business was not allowed to open, but the lights stayed on throughout COVID, it's really like, I don't think people are going to go along with it, because people actually have to want to make those sacrifices. And
no one's going to go along with a lockdown.
Nobody's going to go. They might go along with a lockdown for a virus again. But
not me, not Gary.
Not Gary. But we're talking about the woke tards that listen to CNN all day, or the people that are your average Democrat socialist.
That doesn't know that,
or that doesn't have a sense of self-worth. The person with no foundation that feels like they are getting completely demoralized by the system with who, and they don't have what we have. Like, yeah, of course they wanted a lockdown. Are you kidding me? Of course they're going to want a UBI with a central bank digital currency. What are you talking about? They're totally going to want that. They're going to be begging for this shit.
Yeah. It's that slavery of the intellect, really.
They're going to be begging for it. If you don't have any dreams or ambition, or if you feel beaten down and like crushed by how life is treating you, you want whatever is as easy as possible.
Get that on your
bro.
Instagram.
You want whatever is as easy as possible for you to get, so that you can get by. Of course, like, dude, the central bank digital currency are going to be like the new communist socialist thing that people are going to start advocating for. That's what's going to happen. Like the DSA type crowds are going to go from like being mask Nazis and vaccine police to like saying that you hate poor people because you don't want a CBDC. Like, I can totally see that happening.
They could figure out a way to make it about poor people for sure. They always figure out a way to make it about the exact opposite of what it's about.
It's always about compassion, because if you don't do what they tell you to do, then you're not a compassionate person. Like, it's appealing to emotion is the easiest way to get tyranny to manifest itself. Like, that is common sense.
And that's why women shouldn't vote, right? That's what you're saying.
But what is a woman? What is a woman? What is a woman? What is a woman? But what is a woman?
He set himself up. Yeah, like, people, like, they can't be trusted with their emotions. So, like, and that's why women shouldn't vote.
That's why you shouldn't have guns either, because you can't be trusted with your emotions, and all this stuff just keeps going in a circle. Hey, before we go though,
we're gonna finish on that.
No, I actually wanted to talk about James.
All right,
we barely even talked about James, because that was like the most fascinating character in that book was James. Yeah. Far and away, James was the most fascinating character in that book.
So James, he is really an example to Eddie of someone who, young man goes west, right? That's a classic American story, right? Yeah. So I had this opportunity in front of me to write what I think could be like, just objectively based on the people that I wrote it with, being with Eddie, having that kind of storyteller, being
a black metalhead in the 1980s was
a very unique path.
Was very rare. Like, you actually were your own man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that is the most punk rock, free-spirited, self-autonomous thing to do, is to be a black metalhead in the 1980s in Arkansas.
He leaves, and he had two friends like that too.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, he leaves Arkansas in his early 20s and goes to LA without telling anybody. He just takes his mom's suitcase, throws some of his shit in there, calls them from California, and then the story goes from there, right? And he's lived in California essentially ever since.
Yeah.
The fact that again, like, young man goes west kind of story, right? Like, that's a classic American tale like that. And so I hope that in talking about James and Eddie and the friendship and the brotherhood they shared and the growth that they experienced together, and then providing you and using Eddie as a vehicle, right, to like get that story and get that young man goes west story and get that grand conspiracy Trojan horse that I put in there too, because it's a story about people, but I also included like the relevance of today's conversation, like the stuff we're talking about right now. It's like the relevance of the COVID narrative, the CIA narrative, the system narrative. To be able to put that in something like James and Eddie, and to have James go from the guy who's making satanic music in his youth to the guy who's really turned me on to going to church and turned me on to like being more studious with my Bible or anything like that, because there's a lot of wisdom in there. There's a lot of foundational, intelligent wisdom and the kind of stuff that will make you feel better as you go through a difficult time, right? Or, there's a really good piece in the Bible that I think of often, like you can't serve both God and money, right? Like it's like those are the kind of things that you can have within.
But there's also
you.
there's also something where you also have to have self-sovereignty and not be dependent.
Right,
like,
right.
Because there's a balance, and you don't have to serve money.
Right.
You don't have to serve money to want to grow wealth.
Right, but point being on those kinds of things, right, is like there's other passages like James 2:3 that are about going through struggle. It's just there's all this wisdom in the Bible. Like, point being, right, like we're talking about a system where people will give up saying anything. We just had a conversation about a system filled with people who will give up saying anything that upsets their opportunity to make money, right? And so, like, that's kind of what I went through with getting my book canceled in 2020.
Yeah.
What Eddie is willing to go through, what James is willing to go through just by a nature of who he is. He God is first with him. Going to church with these pastors, God is first with them.
But James never also had to get canceled.
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of really setting your life in order.
Yeah. That's just somebody who has a really good spiritual foundation.
Well, he had the cancer situation, right?
It's
he almost got canceled
because he wasn't doing by God.
He almost got canceled by God, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking, he almost got canceled by God, bro. And then he came back and he found God.
And also like he had his wife that was by his side the entire time, and he's still with that lady, right?
Yes.
And that is amazing. Like, that's winning.
Yeah, for sure. The point being too about writing about someone like James is that we have a culture that hoists up people who are rich and famous and all this sort of stuff and celebrity and everything. But James is a true hero in that he has something happen to him that is beyond all of our wildest nightmares.
Yes.
And he's become a better person through it because of his relationship with God and his pursuit of knowledge via the Bible. And to be able to do something like that, and to be able to live that example, that's super heroic.
Yeah, and also, the fact that Eddie and James, did they stay friends the entire time?
Yeah,
they still were like.
I mean, they went to like a metal show recently. Like, I'm on a group chats with Eddie and James, and the cover is the way it is. It has James in a rock star pose on the cover because he wanted everyone to know, like, this is the real hero of the story, and it's best friend through to today.
1,000%, and that is one of the coolest things in and of itself for someone like Eddie Bravo to go become a household name, right? Mm-hmm. Become a household name, and through finding a purpose that was totally unrelated to what he thought he was going to want to do.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I was going to want to do what I'm doing, and that's super relatable. But having that, and then staying with your best friends and never losing sight of who your best friends are and prioritizing that over any other amount of like fame or money that you could have ever attained. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's like that's what the inspiration of this book really should be. That's my opinion, right?
Yeah.
But we gotta wrap up, right? Although we have another episode coming right up in 5:30.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Gary,
how do we get a hold of it? How do we
look at his mustache? Look at his
Gary's
mustache.
Gotta eat.
Gary's gotta eat, dude. I gotta get back to the gym. 10th Planet Austin.
That's
10
right.
PATX.
Hey, Zach, how do we get a hold of you? We'll talk about our games during the bonus.
Zack Moore 10P. ZackMoore 10P. The number 10 and P. When you go to follow me on Instagram, you will be told that I'm a liar. I'm not a liar. Instagram's lying to you. There's no misinformation on my Instagram. There's never been misinformation. I've never been wrong about anything before in my life. Ever. And also, I'm back on Twitter at the same name because Elon let me back because Elon and I are friends. And you can buy my book, Mastering the Metal.
Show the book. Show it.
The story of James Watson and Eddie Bravo. I just gave Gary his copy. The story of James Watson and Eddie Bravo.
That's James in the cover right there.
That's James. That's Eddie back there. That's me, dude. Me and Eddie Bravo on the same cover.
Edgy bra.
And so I also read the audiobook. This book will be available. We're recording this on the 27th of March. This book will be available everywhere March 28th. It'll be available hopefully at somewhere like Book People. It'll be available at Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, because they know it's a book about Eddie Bravo. What they might not know is it's a book about how corrupt the entire system that everyone's a part of is.
And I like how easily digestible it is.
Very easy.
Like if I wore a mask alone in my car, I might maybe only wear a mask alone outside walking my dog.
You might make a change.
Yes.
Yeah, because I came to you with a little bit
Yes.
of compassion.
Yes. Zach, thank you so much for coming me on. Really appreciate it. Don't trust the CIA. Thank you.